like to call the February 9th, 2016 meeting of the Locke Management Association to order. I have 6:33 p.m. and we'll begin with a roll call attendance query.
Deborah Mendel, Carol, Eileen Leo,
Jay Correa,
Brock Alexander,
Dustin Marr,
James Motlow,
Russell Ohms.
Okay, we easily have a quorum. And I don't think we have any travelers from long distances that need to get back on the road, so I don't see a reason to rearrange the agenda tonight. The next item is item 3, the approval of the minutes from the October 13th, 2015 meeting. I'll give everyone just a moment or two to review those, and I'll entertain a motion. A verbal report or interpretation?
Yeah, I was going to, after we had a moment and we asked the vote. As you can note, that as of January 31st, 2016, we now have at the bank account $19,799.77. The other thing I would like you to take note of is on the very last page after the breakdown of the various property and aging summary, is that our fees have gone up with Basoni from $250 to $275 per month. And that is because of the additional breakdowns that we've had of the various assessments from a single item to multiple items, say like for somebody like Clarence who has multiple properties, we've had to expand that, as well as more detailing out of the various assessments, letters that we need to send out and such for delinquencies and things like that. So I think it's money well spent to have this, because they're taking a lot of extra paperwork and time to work with what we need each month. So that's the reason it's a $25 increase. Any questions?
Questions?
I have a question.
Question from the attendees?
I'm sorry, what?
I said a question. Go ahead, please.
Are we still being charged for manager's salary of $26,000?
Treasurer?
No.
So where's our rebate?
Okay.
That's a little too accusatory. That's not.
Yeah, that's a loaded question, and we're not going to entertain loaded questions.
Okay, let me make it
on
as
to
a
the-
statement instead, please. The assessments include a large portion that is supposed to be for management as prescribed by your bylaws for the structure of the board. There's supposed to be a paid manager.
I would argue
the
that
manager quit 2 years ago.
Chairman,
And we have-
Yeah, this is, you know what?
We're going through.
That's right. That is a
You should
policy.
have never allowed her
Okay,
to ask a question.
hold on.
Thank
It's a policy, that's a policy issue. It has nothing to do with approving the treasurer's report. That's enough. Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second? Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The treasurer's report is approved. Okay, item 6, old business. Okay, election of officers for 2016.
I should note,
Report from the secretary.
yes, I should give a report before we do that, which is that the nomination ballots were sent out back in October, and I think we're all aware that although there were several people nominated, the only people who accepted their nominations for residential and commercial seats were myself and Brock Alexander. So there were more than that, those seats open, so we simply accepted and we'll stay. So our terms will be extended for another 3 years. So election, yes? Did you want to ask me something?
Well, I don't know if it's worth it to go, to repeat that again so that I more fully understand.
Okay.
Those seats, so let's.
Point of
I
order,
wanna-
this person is disrupting this meeting.
Yeah,
I don't need to have her moving signs around, so if you ask her
Yeah,
to put her
okay.
signs down and just, not disrupt this meeting.
yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
I think that what happens in most meetings is if the person wants to hold a sign, they need to have a seat and they can hold the sign.
Yes.
But it is not something, you can move your chair back to the audience area. You
I'm
either
the
have a
only one
choice-
in the audience, Mr. Motlow.
might be
Well,
good.
but this, we're trying to have a structure of
Yeah.
a meeting.
Let me, I still am the chair, and
Go
I'd
ahead.
say right now, let's, ignore the distractions at the back of the room or in the audience.
You wanted a clarification? Or-
Yeah, I just
Okay.
want to hear, exactly what positions those.
All right, so.
I want it to be on the record, that's why I'm doing it.
Great.
So,
Nomination ballots went out in October
October, nomination ballots went out in October for,
the residential property owner seats that were
Yes.
becoming vacant or were already vacant.
okay,
And a commercial property seat that was becoming vacant.
okay,
Currently seated are in the residential seats are Russell Ohms.
mhm,
His term does not expire until 2016, the end of this year.
okay,
My seat was up in 2015. And then we've had a standing vacant residential seat that the term expires in 2017. So
okay,
no one's volunteered for that for a couple of years. And then under commercial property owners,
yes,
Justin Marr's term does not expire until the end of this year. We have had, again, a vacancy in commercial property owner since, well, it won't expire till 2017. And then Brock's term was expiring at the end of last year, 2015, as mine was.
okay,
We received nomination ballot returns, and there were several, I pulled them out so I could reference them. There were several nominations, about 6 or 7 in total. I could have counted them exactly, but not in my folder. And the only people who accepted nominations, so everyone was contacted.
okay,
And the only people who accepted their nominations by their fellow property owners were myself and Brock Alexander.
okay, very good.
Jake, I'd like to add one more thing, because if I understand it right, Debbie, also that in order, so it's open to all the property owners, right? And whether they business or commercial, right? This nominating process as well as being able to be accepted under a nomination, right? But there's a caveat to that, if I understand it right. You have to be up under assessments. If you're
Yes, I believe that if you're more than 60 days delinquent, you do not qualify as a candidate.
So you can neither nominate or you can neither accept.
Well, you certainly can't accept.
Right.
So I understand that.
So it's one of the, again, it's one of the, in a sense, it's a problem that we have because we're dealing with a very limited base of people to be able to even accept a nomination because we have a limited pool of people who are property owners, whether they be commercial or to be residential. And if we have, say, a section of those people, of those property owners who do not pay their assessment, we even have a limited, a more limited pool of people to potentially draw from. And if it's not under a mandatory service that we do, this is all voluntary. So if somebody has stuff going on in their lives, our pool gets even tighter. So we don't have very many people to draw from. And so this is really the people who have the most interest and who really care about the town, who can donate their time to be here. That's one of the real questions that is never really seen to, or the statements to some of these questions of why there are so few being accepted nominations. It's part of the result of all these factors. So I just wanted to make sure
that is
that
so
you understood that.
I think that's exactly between the both of you what I wanted to hear here. I wanted that to be on the record. Your interpretation, I think, of your explanation is right on, and I really think it's important that be put into the record. So, okay, I think we're done with that. Let's move on to the election.
I would like to say,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
take my nomination seriously, so if
Mhm.
property owners want me to continue, then I will remain in spite of some of the reasons you don't want to stay.
Yeah, and isn't it, we didn't have anyone to run against because nobody, to capitalize on James's point,
Right.
nobody accepted.
Right.
But then again, isn't it, the board still has the right to accept our nomination, right? Or they could, I mean, we
Right.
declined
Accept or
it.
decline.
It's never
Well-
really occurred. I'm just
Sure.
not sure.
I don't know how to answer that question.
We could ratify their.
Yeah.
I think
I'm getting into something that,
yeah, I'm not sure either. I don't have it all memorized. Okay, I might need some help getting
public
through
comment.
There's no public comment at this moment.
Yes, there is. Otherwise, it's a Brown Act violation.
You're disrupting the
You're
meeting.
disrupting, please don't interrupt. You can speak during public comment on issues like.
I'm supposed to be able to speak to each agenda item as a member of the public.
So,
Chairman, explain our policy for allowing the public to speak. We give them 3
This is-
minutes at a specific time.
This
not
is
now.
we haven't even taken up an item yet. Well, this is a prelude to item 6A. And when we take up item 6A formally, we'll accept public comment. Okay?
Item
Thank you.
6A is
Let's
the
begin the
self-reelection
election
of
of
the
new
board.
officers. And when they're on the table, then we'll take public
No,
comment.
this isn't
Good,
officers. This is not the
Oh, you're on-
officers.
you
This
went
is
to B.
the election of the board members, the property owners.
Oh,
She
A.
separated it.
Oh, yeah. We're on item 6A.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay.
6A, exactly.
Okay. I don't remember the exact procedures for this, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, how does that work?
Election of officers?
We
Well,
open it up to nomination.
we open up the floor for nominations. It's certainly easy if, well,
Should we start
just
doing
start
them
with-
individually?
individually, just start with the chairman since,
Okay.
from the top down, I suppose.
This is so
That's the way
illegal.
we
They're
usually-
rewriting the
And
bylaws.
in the past, we've done the whole slate. We make a motion, then we take public comments, then we vote on it.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay.
So let's begin with the chair. And do we have nominations for chair? Or volunteers that would like to run?
Are you stepping down as the chair?
Oh, yes, do I need to
Well,
Yes,
that's
yes,
good to know.
I
In
do,
case
yeah, no,
someone
I'm not gonna,
nominates.
I'm not gonna accept the nomination for chair. I think I've been chair for 2 years plus, and I think it's time to take a break. So yes, I'm not going to accept a nomination at this time.
Well, I'd like to nominate Russell Holmes as the chairman.
Does there need to be a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second.
Is anyone else
Is there
interested?
anyone else interested?
Eileen? Eileen?
You're
Raise your
interested?
hand.
No, I'm not.
Eileen.
You're waving it
She
us away.
was waving it away.
Oh, that she put her hand up.
Brock, Dustin, nobody else?
I would decline.
What are the other offices?
Well, let's move on to the, there's a vice chair.
Vice
Chair.
Vice Chair, I nominate Brock.
I second that.
Continue as Vice
Yes.
Chair.
All
He's
right.
pretty red a little bit, he's mad.
Alright.
You'll accept,
Yeah,
okay. Anyone else interested in running? or nominating another person. Okay, so far on our slate, we have Russell, we have Brock, and then going down the line,
I'd love it if James would remain as treasurer.
will you nominate him?
I will
as
nominate
treasurer?
him.
I'll second that.
I'll accept.
You getting all these?
I am,
Okay.
except there were too many seconds. Who was the second? Wu? Okay.
And then going down from the treasurer?
She just said treasurer. we need
No, I'm
secretary.
down from the treasurer, I said, going down, secretary.
I nominate Deborah.
I
Mendel.
second, Deborah, okay. Eileen seconded. Okay. No one else is
Who
in?
nominated me?
James did, Eileen second.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd like to move that we
Close the nominations.
close the nominations then.
Okay. So the nominations are closed, and I'll entertain public comment.
Thank you, sir. This,
Should I set
you are at this time, okay,
You're
go
gonna take
ahead.
3 minutes, go.
Thank you. You have just, have the, we didn't receive any ballots out there in the town, the homeowners. According to Section 3 of your Article 4 on your bylaws, each property owner within the town of Locke shall be mailed a ballot with instructions. The voting by owners shall be one parcel, one vote ballot, one vote basis. This is not the nomination. You guys are supposed to have a nomination committee as told in your bylaws. You don't even know your bylaws. You don't know your CC&Rs, you don't know your bylaws. So you've been self-re-electing yourselves illegally without sending us ballots for 7 years. You can't keep this a private club. You can't keep this public agency a private club. Do you see how many members of the audience there are in the public, in your audience? I'm the only one. It's because you've scared everyone else away. You've intimidated everyone in the town. You threaten people. You call the county on people every month, Ms. Mendel. Thank you for the last 4 months. Every month, something I'm doing wrong. That is not management of the town. That's harassment. That's harassment through the county offices. This is ridiculous. You need to have, oh, smile real big, okay? And I hope they show that to
Please
Mr.
keep
in
it
the
civil, please keep it civil.
You spent over $150,000 probably, I'm guessing, because I'm not sure what Mr. Motlow's, who's, by the way, the tenant of 2 of the domestic partner relationships. This is total conflict of interest here. You guys are in business, 4 or 5 of you are in business together at the Moon Cafe. That's total conflict of interest. That's against laws of public agencies. You're self-elected. 2 of the board members here own the public monopoly water agency. It's, you know, read your bylaws. Section 3, you're supposed to have a nominating committee, and then in December, you're supposed to send out ballots to each of the parcel owners. We get 1 vote. You haven't done that since December of 2009, when Lisa Kirk and David Garcia counted your ballots, when Shirley Roberts was the town manager.
You have about 10 seconds.
Dissolve the corrupt Locke boards. That's my comment.
I would just like to make one statement, and that's that it's a real fallacy of logic to believe that something is true just because someone states it. And I just really want to say that. Okay.
One second though.
Go ahead.
I just want to make, nominating ballots were set out, weren't they? We received.
Nomination, but
You
not.
had your time.
You interrupted.
Please
You did
be
3
quiet.
minutes.
You are allowed your full time. Please.
I'm asking Debbie who said they said it. I heard nominating ballots.
Nomination ballots were sent out.
Great, that's quite fine.
And
Thank
they were
you.
sent out to
All the-
everyone, you know.
All the property
good
owners.
standing with-
Just read your bylaws.
Please don't interrupt again, or
Interrupt
you can
again.
leave the room. Please leave if you can't be quiet. If you can't control yourself as an adult, please leave. Okay, we have a slate of officers. We have Russell Owens nominated for chair. We have Brock Alexander nominated for vice chair. James Motlow for treasurer, and Deborah Mendel for secretary. Am I missing anyone? Okay, I think we should take a roll call vote to vote yes or no on that slate. Is that okay?
Sure. Deborah Mendel, I'll say yes, aye.
Darrell, vote the slate.
Eileen Leo, I vote the slate.
Jay Correa, I vote the slate.
Brock Alexander, I vote the slate.
Dustin Marr, I vote the slate. James Motlow, I vote the slate.
Russell Owens, I vote the slate.
Good, excellent. Should we change seats now?
Are you that much of a hurry?
Well, no, I mean, it's up to
Sure, I can. What we do?
It's up to you, so.
It's up to you.
You prefer?
Typically, the routine.
Yep, that's our, that's
Take
our
this with you,
preference.
I'll
Russell.
take my name with me.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Right.
Thank you, Jay. for
Yes,
being
thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a
Chair
pleasure.
all these years.
Quite an experience sometimes.
Recharge your batteries, we'll see you
I know
next
it's
year.
challenging, and I hope you stay on as historic preservation representative, because your experience in that arena is invaluable to this town.
Oh, thank you, Deborah.
So there's my
Okay. I might miss
Little
a few more meetings.
hook
but-
in to
It's
stay
always
in.
nice to have the bullseye removed.
Yeah.
And just sit on the sidelines and watch.
Okay.
All right, I just want to repeat that what this board does, and what it does, it runs the town. It's a nuts and bolts committee that runs the town with, I think, 78 people in it. And I think 5% of the people who are on the board running it, a very small group. And we also sort of, hopefully, if there's businesses, help the businesses, and we keep the Chinese character. We try to keep the Chinese culture alive in the town. We're not responsible for building codes. We don't do that. So it's just, we pay the lights, we pay insurance, we keep the roads clean, we mow the back, we try to get rid of fire hazards, we clean up the trees. And we're a legal body. We've been created by Sacramento County. We we follow the Brown Act. We fill out Form 700s, all of us, every year. And
right.
we are legally entitled to run this town and legally mandated to run this town. And if anyone has issue with it, please follow through and make sure we do the right work. And you bring whatever you need to make us do it, because I want this town run legally and right. So, I also believe the chair manages the meeting, runs the meeting, and that's their job. It's not to be a dictator, but to just run the meeting and get everyone's opinions, and get my board's opinions, and hopefully get the board members that are quiet to talk, and to entice Dustin to weigh in and say something once in a while. So that's what I believe the chair does. So here we go. We're going to go on to the first item on the agenda is 6B is review. It's a review action item. It's a collection, lien enforcement, and foreclosure regarding delinquent assessments accounts of, let's see, 3 people, I believe, Robert Adams, Anthony Lee, and Ronnie Baden, and other delinquent accounts. So who is this the treasurer?
This is me, Russell, yes,
Okay.
I'm the treasurer.
Would you
So-
like to tell us what's going on? and
Sure,
what's
sure.
correct?
Well, a little bit of the backstory is when I became treasurer, I immediately looked at the various monthly incomes from our assessments and saw that we had some very large outstanding delinquent assessments. And then reading the CC&Rs, we do have a process in order to deal with them. So I began at that point to implement that process. The process is now with the Robert Adams as well as the Ronnie Maiden to the point that we now are taking legal action in the form of a lien. The other aspect of that is that we are going to be following on that with small claims. The idea is that, of course, we would like resolution before this because we would have more money to work with to be able to pay bills and such, as well as to have this not ongoing kind of agitation. So that we've done everything to work with both the estate of Robert Adams and the Roddy Maiden. But the problem for them comes that in small claims, we were going to bill them for the attorney's costs that we've had to incur in order to prepare the various documents. This is not an easy process. This is a legal process to be able to put forth a lien as well as to move forward with the small claims. But I think in the end it's going to be highly beneficial. Tony Lee is in that process now of where we are offering him a meet and confer. We're waiting to hear back. There's a certain timetable to that. We're waiting to hear back so we can agree upon a date to where we actually have a meet and confer. A meet and confer is simply saying, okay, your assessments are this. If you can show us why they shouldn't be that, meaning that you've paid something that we haven't recorded or you disagree with the amount because you have paid this, we ask the person to give us proof. Say in the course with Roddy Maiden, that she believed that because, first of all, there was dispute about how much money that she actually owed beginning at a certain date. We were able to define the agreement that she had written up with Shirley Roberts that she had signed stating that she owed that amount, that she said that she didn't owe. So we were able to say, well, wait a minute, this isn't the amount, this was the amount that you started with. The other thing that she was saying was that she believed that because she did work around her property, that she could deduct that work based upon some formula that she had from her payments to the assessments. That doesn't make any logical sense on any level because the bottom legal line is that you are responsible for your assessments.
Okay.
And so we moved forward with that. Ms. Maiden's delinquency is, almost $5,000 at this point. It's $4,638.
$60 a month.
Yeah, and so that's added up over all these years. Tony Lee, we're at the point, as I said, to the meet and confer area. Okay. So we're moving along with that. And the one that the other delinquent account is with John Green, who has refused. He's paid actually at one point down. He's delinquent again now.
I see.
And he's delinquent, I believe, almost $700, if not more. So he's reaching that threshold of $1,000 or so. So we've had our lawyer send him a letter stating that these consequences are coming. You need to take this seriously. Okay? The whole idea, of course, is if we can get all the assessments to being paid and we can work through all the legal fees that we have had, at some point, by having people pay their assessments, we will have a positive cash flow. We will be able to, at some point, be able to reduce the amount of the assessments every single month. But it's critical that we come back to a stable point of assessment collection. So,
So do you need anything from this board today? Any kind of action in any way, or is it just a
no, we're just
report?
proceeding. It's just a report. There's no. I am, well within my dictate as a treasurer to follow these assessments. Follow the bylaws, and that's what I'm doing. Again, I want to thank Deborah Mendel, our secretary, for the hours that she's put in with the paperwork and the cooperation that she's given me. And our lawyers, I think, are doing a fabulous job of the document preparation as well as leading things through to hopefully a positive resolution for us.
Wonderful. Do any committee members have any questions of James? I'd like to add that Robert Adams is a special case because the person who owned the building died, and then it went into an estate, and the person who was supposed to receive the estate has no interest in the estate. So having it probated, he just dropped it.
No, he's actually, it's a family member, the brother of Robert Adams, and
Right.
he's returning all of our bills as,
He's
he's refusing these statements from the association.
Right.
And it seem walk away, although he is the contact on record with this county, Sacramento County, so I continue to send him the invoices. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do, but
I'm going to open it up to public comment. Do we have anyone who wants to speak?
Yes, I would like to speak.
Does anyone have 3-minute time?
I can do that if you'd like.
Can you time it?
time.
Great, thanks.
I'm aware that one of the homeowners that you mentioned, who is actually two of them that you mentioned in your financial report here, are very upset by their names being used in public. They feel it's a privacy violation. Additionally, you don't seem to have an attachment for the public here regarding the letter from the attorney regarding Davis-Sterling Act violations of your board and the disallowing of people to mediate this matter through Davis-Sterling Act. So we would like to have the attachment that's been apprised of the board of the letter, the 3-page letter from the attorney from one of the homeowners here whose name you mentioned here, Mr. Motlow.
Are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished.
Darrell, Wu, does that make any sense, what anything she said?
Well, it wasn't in our agenda package, so.
I see.
If Ms. Esch is referring to legal letters between our lawyers, we don't.
Well, that's all confidential.
It's confidential, so I don't.
No, it was sent to
Okay,
the
So
L.M.A.
like Q&A.
This is a public agency.
No, you had your
We're
time.
talking among ourselves.
No, that wasn't 3
You
minutes.
said-
You're
you said
supposed
you're
to
done.
have, you're supposed to
done.
have
Said
the
you were-
attachments
would you please
available
remove
to the
yourself?
public.
You're interrupting the
We're
meeting.
not going to do this.
Brown Act violation.
We're a professional. Well, if you believe that, pursue it somewhere else. Don't pursue it now. Thank you. Review and action. Department of Community Development proposed changes to Locke SPA review with recommendations and comments for Delta Citizens Municipal Advisory Council. Because it's going to change the special planning area. Cortland has a special planning area, Walnut Grove and Locke, all three have different special planning areas, as far as I understand. Do you want to speak on this?
Well, I did want to explain what I included in the packet for the board.
Go right ahead.
Tim Cahoya, as you know, he came to the board months ago and did a PowerPoint hard copy demonstration of everything he and his department are working on in improvements to the SBA that make it more user-friendly and functional and understandable. What he did email the board more recently was this summary that I have put in the packet. And I put that in just in case, I didn't have time to cross-reference it, but just in case the portion regarding Locke had any slight changes, but I'm unaware that there's anything in there that we hadn't already seen, if the public hadn't already seen in months prior. The only change I'm aware of is I saw when he presented the outline to DECMAC that for vacation rentals, he originally had it you could only get a vacation rental permit if you had a single multifamily dwelling. And then he realized that most of the residential area is more than single family. And so he adjusted that so that you will be able in the future to get a vacation rental permit in both single and multifamily dwellings. No idea what entails getting that permit. That's not explained yet. It might not ever be explained in the new SPA. That will be something you find out when you go to the county. So I just took the portion of his document that covered Locke. As you see it on the 4th page, it goes on to Walnut Grove. And it starts at page 2 because it began with Cortland. And I wanted us to naturally focus on whatever he's outlined here. This is like from a summary statement, and it was a new document. But as I said, I believe it's just a summary of his PowerPoint, which we've already seen. I'd also like to point out that I understand that DECMAC is meeting tomorrow, and that they are looking forward to hearing from this board regarding the changes to the Locke SPA, because they're going to look at all of the changes as that body functions as an advisory council for this area. So they're looking at all of them, including Locke's, and they're looking forward to input from us. I hope that some of the directors here will be able to attend that meeting. That's tomorrow night, I believe it's at 6:30. Not sure, but I'll double check.
Are they having more than one meeting? I thought they were gonna have a meeting for each town, like Cortland was gonna have a meeting with them, and then Locke would have a meeting, and then Walnut Grove.
I don't know, but if there are any directors available for tomorrow night, I can possibly contact Gil LeBrie and ask him if they need, but it was my understanding that they're looking forward to any recommendations from this body and any suggestions and input on how we feel about the changes to our SBA that are coming down.
Okay.
Also, I want to let everyone know, remind everyone, I sent Tim's entire packet that he presented to us to all the property owners. It had Tim's contact number on it. So if any of the property owners wanted to get involved, wanted to learn more, wanted to make suggestions to Tim even personally, they had all that information. It went out with all the statements right after his meeting with us back in 2015. So it really tried to alert every property owner.
Wonderful.
Any questions? Timeline-wise, getting this, I know DECMAC wants it, they want to hear something by tomorrow. What's the timeline? I mean, do you get a sense of it, or what they?
I don't recall him giving us a timeline.
And
Does
DECMAC,
anybody-
they
did
just,
you speak to
I'm
him?
sorry,
Okay.
what? No, I know that they seem to be on a push right now to get it done. I don't know when these will be accepted though, and I presume they have to be accepted by the County Board of Supervisors, right, eventually.
Ultimately,
Ultimately.
Yes,
Yeah.
let me see.
I guess I'm a little confused as to what DECMAC, and I may be the one who goes tomorrow, but what, I mean, they want our opinion on these changes tomorrow? Is that what they're looking for?
Yes.
Yes, they want to
Yeah,
know
they-
what we care about in these.
And that's because, I mean, they are going to be one of the approving authorities of these changes, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I know it's
Yes,
our
yes.
precious time, but I want to clarify.
Mhm.
I hope you don't mind on clarifying.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, okay.
You have, Mr. LeBrie, the
Yeah,
chairman, so
sure.
has he given you any other information that?
But I wonder if it's on their agenda tomorrow on whether or not to support
It
these
is
changes.
on the agenda.
It is,
But,
I don't think they're deciding tomorrow. I
yeah,
think they're still taking input.
but you also threw in another little wrench, and that's that they also have to decide the changes for Cortland.
And Walnut Grove.
And Walnut
because
Grove,
it's
and I
three
wonder-
special planning areas.
yeah.
And they're all different, and they have all different changes. Right.
How often do they meet, DECMAC meet?
Usually once a month,
Once a
but I
month.
think for some reason this month they may meet twice.
Mhm.
The last meeting where Tim presented It was on December 16th
He presented to whom?
to DECMAC.
To DECMAC.
He did.
Yeah, and the questions, just even on the Walnut Grove, and there were people there from Portland also, so.
Hmm.
My impression, because I was at that meeting, and my impression was Gil LeBrie was in no hurry to push this through without being sure that all communities
I'll agree with.
gave
Oh,
input
good,
to
okay.
DECMAC.
Right.
You know, they were.
And I see, and I apologize that, I mean, I did not bird dog this extensively, and it's just mainly a personal time issue.
Okay.
But, I do, little red flags do pop up sometimes, and I even see one, right now, that I don't quite understand why the language isn't a little more specific, or a little more in favor of historic preservation.
Do you wanna-
And I don't know if you want to get in the weeds now, Mr. Chair, already?
Well, I think that.
You want to go down this?
Yeah.
Some of
What
us-
is- what is it?
Brian's here.
Want to go through it?
I-
Well, I have a concern about one of these.
Well, let's go through them so we understand, and someone will know something for tomorrow. So the first one, let's go through it, reducing permitting times and costs. So it's replacing permitted signs that are similar in appearance and size. Building permit only, no additional review.
I mean, why wouldn't, to me, it would make more sense if it just simply said, replacing signs with a sign that meets the SPA, right? I mean, there are rules for signage in laws, aren't there?
It's true, we have. a
Yeah,
whole
so why
list.
wouldn't it just, to me, it should hammer home then the fact that a sign should be, I mean, that's ambiguous, signs that are similar in appearance and size, that doesn't speak to the fact, or to the issue of whether or not the sign meets the SPA, or maybe that's assumed, I don't know.
Okay, so you feel that item is ambiguous?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Oh, okay, good.
Maybe I'm just not understanding something.
And I'm confused by it too.
Yeah.
And then I took it another way, replacing, what if there's one that's an old sign historic to the town that doesn't fit? Are they replacing that with, we kind of want our
And I hope by
historic-
definition that sign meets
Yeah.
the standards.
Well,
Meets the SPA.
my worry is, that what if it doesn't? Then we lose the historic sign because
Well,
of
I would argue against that, of
Okay.
course.
Well,
Yeah, but that's good, yeah, good question, maybe.
All right, well, we'll bring that up. How
Yeah.
about the next one?
But the DECMAC isn't the organization to bring this up to, I would think.
Yes, because
They can make recommendations.
they're there, they're present. The people,
Okay.
the two men that are rewriting our SPAs will be there.
The fellow from the county will be.
Yes.
Jim will be there.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
thank
tomorrow.
you. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, beautiful.
and that brings up the discussion we had with the county person that was mentioning that DECMAC was interested in not getting involved anymore.
Well,
Yes,
that's the
everything
next
else.
Well, that's
step.
in- yeah.
That's the next step.
Well,
That is outlined.
So it's kind of weird
That's
though
weird.
that they
I
want
know that
to.
they're using DECMAC to not use DECMAC.
But that.
Yeah, use
well,
DECMAC,
yeah,
that's
but
it,
that's
exactly
what-
it. It seems weird.
Yeah.
It seems
But
strange.
that's why they exist as an advisory body for things that affect the Delta, and since changing all these SPAs is affecting the Delta communities, they're.
So is this,
Yeah.
as I took it, they're getting involved to this last time to try to get a little less involved?
Yes,
I
exactly.
think that's a good
Well,
way to
in
characterize it.
that
Yeah,
area,
okay.
yeah. And
All right.
that's
This
on
just
page
seemed-
3,
Exactly.
improved project review,
All right.
and that,
So we'll move on, reestablishment of discontinued use, this is interesting. Use permit heard by zoning administrator rather than the planning commission. So I guess if you have a use that's been discontinued, I don't know what the times are, is it a year or is it forever? If something happened 30 years ago in a
I
building?
think it used to be like 5 years or something.
Oh,
And so if
Okay.
it hadn't, there was a very specific amount, so
There is.
that would be important perhaps for us to know.
How many years?
Yeah, what will the new rules be applied in the SPA?
Okay, I'll make some notes here, and whoever goes to the meeting can bring it up.
And it'd be nice, a little footnote on what the difference is. There's time you mentioned, is there anything else that's different once it goes from planning commission to the zoning administrator? It'd be nice to have a little idea, because I wouldn't know what all the details of a zoning administrator does.
I think it's definitely lowering the threshold for getting it approved, I would
Yes.
say.
That's what, they've said that they want to make it easier to do business and make things happen in the town. So they're trying to be user-friendly.
Okay.
Sharon,
Yes.
Daryl is raising his hand,
Oh.
or what?
Well, I was just gonna, am I being recognized?
Yes, I did.
I was just gonna comment that if the county is now analogous to the city of Sacramento, planning commission meets once a month, zoning administrator is a person whose job it is to review at a certain level. So they've been delegated authority from the planning commission. And the planning commission at the city level is delegated authority from the city council. So it becomes less bureaucratic if it is the zoning administrator who reviews the plans.
I see. And I'm sure there's an appeal process
And
anyway.
there is an appeal process typically to the planning commission and then to the city council. So it'll be to the planning commission and then the board of supervisors.
Right.
My only concern is that so long as the zoning administrator and the reviews are guided by historic preservation in our SPA,
Yeah.
right, then the decision-making is less bureaucratic but still consistent.
Okay.
Thanks, that makes sense.
Should I move on? Any other questions? Okay, great. B, 2, development standards. Availability of on-street parking was added as another factor in reducing off-street parking requirements for use. I don't even know what that means. It means leaving on-street, parking
Well,
overnight?
If
I
remember-
believe under development standards in the SBA, you had to have some additional parking when, I mean, I don't even know, not sure how development works for Locke. It's in the SBA, but since we're historic and all open space, you know, any place that doesn't have a house on it is L.M.A. property
Right.
on the ground. So a lot more would have to happen before someone would be able to develop something on the ground. We either have to,
Well, the question is, we own all the roads except
Right.
for the main street. Would this change, would this allow on-street parking on the county road, which is the main street? That's what I don't know.
well, see, as I said, I think it has to do with the section under new development. It doesn't have anything to do with
I see, I see.
that.
To allow a business to get started without meeting parking requirement.
The building,
I
or a
see.
new structure, if somebody wanted to build a home.
Okay.
But it's worth asking Tim if
What's
indeed
meant?
that's what that's.
I thought that's what, at the meeting that when Tim was there, I thought that's what he addressed, that was a concern about, you know, do we have to come up with the parking standards for, say, the county? You know, if we, you know, you say, I think this was for Long
Right,
Grove,
okay.
saying, you know, no, we can't, there would be, you couldn't operate a business here. How
Right.
could we ever operate a business and
Yeah.
provide the number of parking places along with, say, a handicap parking spot? Additionally to that, we can't rise to that, and therefore, we couldn't even begin a business.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, this is, if, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I reference his points, his items, which is like 504-414A, we're talking about new structures or
New
additions
building.
within the historic preservation
I
area,
see.
setbacks, landscaping.
This is still 2A, Deborah?
2A, yeah.
Yeah, so this is all under about new development. And I don't think we've ever even considered it and thought about it. It might, maybe we should be thinking about, you know, new development on common ground land, I don't know. I mean, there is no other available land for there to be new development.
Right, it's true. All right, we'll bring it up. The next one, distinguishing between mobile homes and manufactured homes. I don't know if you've read this, but it's gonna, for this reason, the SBA prohibits manufactured homes in the historic preservation area because it's against the state registry of historic places. Are you familiar with this, Jay?
Yeah, the one thing that frustrates me is that I can't believe that people charged with this stuff get the terminology so wrong. It's the California Register of Historical Resources. And
Okay.
I administer that program, by the way.
Oh, so you would know.
Along with 2 other people in my office
Okay.
that work for me, so.
So they're saying they want to allow manufactured homes and of course mobile homes.
I think this is self-correcting.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
not gonna be an issue.
Okay.
We'll
You
see,
might wanna
we'll see if we get the
wipe out
language
that
changed.
error.
Yes.
We're sensitive
We're-
about the names of the programs we shepherd and care for, you know, so.
All right.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to keep moving because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
lot.
we
I
have
wanna
to,
keep
but
it.
it's
Promote
good, it's
economic
good.
development, bed and breakfast inns added, so that's wonderful, as a permitted use in the commercial residential sub-areas with a zoning administrator, once again, Daryl, use permit in the residential sub-area. Okay, vacation rentals added as a permitted use in residential and commercial residential sub-areas. Small wineries, specialties, craft breweries added as a permitted use with conditions in the commercial, residential, boathouse, commercial, and industrial sub-areas. So I guess that's the Main Street and the boathouse. They could open up wineries or, and the large wineries, breweries added as a permitted use with conditions in the industrial sub-area. So I guess the
If you recall, the industrial sub-area is actually, I believe, Cowan's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not actually,
Oh, because that's in the
Part of
SBA.
What's Callan's?
Association.
Oh, the boat?
No,
it's
No,
trucking yard
um,
that used to be
south of
behind
here.
here. It was south. Just on the
Mr.
other
Cowan's
side.
property is south of us. So he's evidently included, his land is an area is included in the SPA,
Mhm.
although he's not part of the association.
No, thank
A
you
member
for
of the
that
association.
clarification.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, and I actually like all these changes. It's wonderful that the county would start to support this area and be
Right.
friendly to the businesses. My one issue here is they've left out all the permitting costs. Because none of these ideas work if the permit is $10,000.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I
So
know.
for any of these ideas to work, we need to have it for your common person to afford it.
Right.
So it would be great to actually get an indication of where they were thinking permit-wise.
I can give you a little information on that. I spoke with a neighbor who called or emailed him and said, said the same thing, this is great, but what's it gonna cost? Because we know in the past there's been a need for a special use permit, previously anything over 20, less than 28 days and so forth, and that's like $15,000. Anyway, he was told that it was a vacation rental permit is $1,000. But I don't know how you qualify, you know, so maybe there has to be a certain height to your ceilings, or maybe smoke detectors and carbon monoxides everywhere you turn, who knows?
Yeah, and my point is, they've left that out of the discussion.
Some of the alcohol stuff might be
Yeah.
state permitting too,
Yeah.
though, not county.
Well, it'd be nice to have that as part of the discussion, knowing what they're thinking to charge,
Yeah.
and at least letting us comment on it.
I'm glad you said that, though. I like all these things too. I think they're good, they promote business, and we can't have historic preservation if we don't have the income.
One possibility, if the permits are so expensive for, say, like breakfast or something like that, could we get, because we are a special planning area, can we get a single use permit for the entire area for our area right here? And that would then give us the control of saying, okay, we now have the single permit, we need to have these conform to our regulations as well.
That
But-
should be brought up.
Okay.
And the question of, does the cost, I know they broke it down to different areas, is the Locke cost different than the Cortland one, or, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
Are they thinking in those terms?
So to continue, standalone wine and beer tasting rooms, primary and accessory use, added as a permitted use with conditions in the commercial, residential, and boathouse commercial sub-areas. So we'll move on to improved project review. Okay, the number of project review entities for review of building permits, plan check review, have been reduced from 4, which this is what you were talking about, DECMAC, L.M.A., us, SHRAW, and OHP. Anybody help me? OHP, Office of
Historic Preservation.
Oh, I thought you didn't make anything. I
Well,
thought you didn't make decisions.
the office.
We don't, that's the
office
irony.
has-
Oh,
We
okay.
get written into local ordinances periodically and there's no jurisdiction.
So OHP meetings.
We can't tell local government what to do.
I see.
Or I shouldn't say we, the Office of Historic Preservation cannot tell local, only the local building entity, official can
Okay.
make these decisions.
So they've reduced it to 2, the Locke Management Association and the
He has the
River Delta.
Sacramento River Delta
Delta
Historical
Historical
Society.
Society. This is what drives me crazy, because this is an unprofessional, unelected group of people who are from out of town, who have nothing to do
Yeah,
with us. They're not legally bound, and there's no liability for what they say.
I don't know that there's any expertise.
There's no
Comment.
expertise. Yes,
Well, that
James?
I made when Tim was presenting this was that if you do have these 2 bodies and they're being received, we have to absolutely insist that the reception of each of these comments from these bodies has different weight.
Wait, yeah.
We are given a 90% weight. The Delta Historical Society, for the reasons that you stated, as well as other reasons that are just as obvious, should only have a 10%.
10%.
Because, so, that is very important, I think, to making sure that the people who really are going to be affected by these decisions, who have the insights because they're here, they're involved with the local questions, and that they should be having the weight of their decision received by whoever is going to be receiving this information.
Well, it's interesting, because they have, the LMA will be the formal review body that the applicant is required to meet with. But the Historical Society will be the commenting body the applicant is not required to meet with. And the Historical Society will only review projects that are within the historical preservation area.
But all this information goes to somewhere.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, is
Yes.
when that information is being received by that somewhere, that it is under, absolutely made totally clear that this has the vast majority of weight to be considered.
Because we're following CC&Rs, we're following
We have
bylaws,
so much
we're
more.
legally,
Right. There's no
Mandate.
equality.
they're
here.
not, yeah.
I asked
Yes,
this question of Tim at the last DECMAC meeting, because it said LMA would be the formal review body, and I said, well, what does that mean, formal review? Does it mean we're like more important or something? And he said, no, you carry equal weight.
That's what he
It's
said.
just, so he really made that clear.
He said that the Historical Society carries equal
Equal
weight.
weight to the
Yeah, I'm very opposed to this.
Yeah, me too.
I hope you,
Rob?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I opposed
Go
it, I
ahead.
mentioned it to them at the time too. If you got 50-50 and you disagree on an item, now it's up in the air. Now it becomes a weird mess.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be written,
I think it's
the exact point that you were
Yeah.
making.
It's substituting this, it's
Yeah.
maybe the same situation as.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's like
tie
having-
goes to us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can you put a percentage to it?
I like 90-10
I don't know,
actually.
yeah.
Why not?
I think
They
that's
did-
what,
I know that when the company I worked for, Blue and Gold Fleet, we were in trying to make our proposals for the Alcatraz contract. The Parks Department weighted everything, whether it came from this body. They gave, okay, well, they had these recommendations and these people behind them. They got so much weight according to them, and that's how they determine their concessions.
I hope
So I
they
know
go
that
with
they do
your
this.
plan then. That makes more sense.
Along with the waiting, there's also something a little strange. If we have another entity that can help us, it would be nice to say, here's what we think, give it to you, send it back,
Right.
we'll read your comments,
Give us some good
and then we
ideas.
send it off. But there's like a lack of communication they've set up in this way.
I think it's really telling that they've put no interest in filling the position on this board that belongs to them,
Yeah.
right?
I find that
Well,
interesting
that's
too.
true.
Yeah.
But
And
the procedure I don't like.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to note that in Tim's, PowerPoint thing, Sacramento River Delta Historical Society is a commenting body for all three SPAs.
And they all screamed when we were.
Oh, they
in
did?
Grove. Oh, they
Oh.
screamed. They said,
Yeah, they
"What are
weren't
you talking
crazy about it
Because it's
either.
going on the other side of the river too, wherever it is.
Oh, that's a
And
very
this,
interesting.
yeah, so
Well,
that's not
okay,
nice.
that's good to know.
Okay, we'll bring, B, the number of project review entities for review of planning entitlements have been reduced from 4. Again, those first 3, DECMAC, L.M.A, SHRA, and OHP, to 3. So DECMAC, L.M.A, and still the Historical Society. The DECMAC will be the formal review body applicant is required to meet with, and the L.M.A and the Historical Society will be the commenting bodies. Applicant is not required to meet with. The Historical Society will only review projects that are within the historical preservation area. So we will be a reviewing body, a commenting body.
I remember I asked him about that one, and it's specific to planning entitlements, and I didn't completely understand that. He explained it, but I forgot. Do you remember, Daryl, what planning entitlements?
All right.
And to me, once again, the order of the procedures aren't outlined.
It's true.
How do we comment, but we don't give the person, the DECMAC, our valuable comments, or then vice versa. We can't get other entities' valuable comments
Right.
Yeah.
to make the best informed decision.
Okay, moving on to C, added accessory structures to project review list. This is interesting. Accessory structures are not listed in the current SPA. Now they're adding this. Accessory structures that are visible from a roadway in a historical preservation area will need a plan check review. Structures that are not visible from the roadway will go through the building permit review without any review by a local group. So I don't know what that means, accessory structures. Could this be a cover, a car cover? Could this be, what would this, does
Is
anyone?
it a 10 by 10 shed?
10 by, what is it?
Yeah,
Does anybody have any
we
idea?
don't know.
Daryl, do you know?
What the county considers an
They're adding.
accessory structure.
Yeah, what roadway?
And what's a roadway?
Yeah, what's the defined roadway?
Yeah, the county road or a
And just
private
because
road in the
something,
back? I don't know.
you know, just because something is not visible doesn't mean that it's not, that it doesn't have historical value also. I don't know, the whole thing is funky.
Well,
And you know, he may have explained these at the meeting, but you know, it's been a while ago. So we have to understand that maybe we just need to be reminded perhaps.
Right.
And then last items for application package for the review of projects within historical preservation areas. That means nothing to me. Added list of items.
Well,
They have a list of items that are added for review.
okay, we have to.
Well, you know,
We have to ask.
Ask about
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost done here. More user-friendly document. So added process guidelines section for applicants, whatever that is. B, organization of documents is the same as the document organization for the Cortland and Walnut Grove SPAs, so I guess we'll all be the same. Added guidelines for applicants in submitting plans for projects in historical preservation area for compliance with the SPA ordinance, the county zoning code, and the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. So I guess guidelines will be given. Okay. SPA map clearly identifies streets and parcel lines and sub-areas could be identified after printing in black and white. Map of current SPA does not have parcel lines. Chart, it's true, chart of project review processes are provided. Charts of project review. This is all language that's
It's not very user-friendly.
No, no,
Do they mean they're gonna look at parcel lines?
yeah, they're gonna put
But
the.
at least it's now it's in a digestible, concise
Yeah.
page.
So does any of the committee have any more
Comment.
questions or comments to make before I open it up for public comment? Huh? Oh, yes, Daryl.
Oh, you will,
Looking at,
Hey, James.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me.
looking at improved project review 4C. Because accessory structures are not listed in the current SPA, and because we don't know what those accessory structures might look like, my suggestion is that rather than just plain plan check review, that it come before, maybe before the L.M.A. to make sure that it's consistent with historic nature of the town.
That was on C.
Yeah, page 4,
Page 4.
yeah, 4C.
And you're saying that you think that, could you say that again concisely?
Okay, because we don't know
Yes,
what the definition of accessory structures are.
right,
And because we've never seen one before,
yes.
rather than submit it for plan checks, merely for plan check review, that plan check submitted to the L.M.A. for comment. I don't want approval responsibility, but I want to make sure that it's consistent with the historic nature of the town.
Yeah,
Does that make
okay.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. I added that to my note that says, please explain what an accessory structure is.
Then I also had another comment. Number one, Deborah and I are kind of looking at the numbers listed here versus against the 2005 amended Locke Special Planning Area. And the numbers are kind of inconsistent, so they don't match what version we have here. The 504-503 or 404. So it's hard, I'm having a difficult time understanding.
Cross-referencing
Cross-referencing.
the original
I see.
that we have.
The 504 or 405 do not match the numbers on the SPA.
Well, here's an
A lot of
example. Under 2 update development standards, when we're talking about availability of on-street parking, that's listed as 504-414A on page 3
Yeah.
at the top of the page. Well, there is none.
Oh,
It talks about that, but we did find it under 504-41, was it 412?
Yes,
No, 413.
right, 413.
Which is referred to as parking. So inconsistency, so I don't know what we're cross-referencing, referencing, I guess. And then my last comment is Brock's question about fees. Let me suggest that the fee schedule, the fees are typically listed in a separate document called the fee schedule, because the fee schedule can be amended at any time without having to go through the requirements of rewriting the SPA. So oftentimes you won't find them in the same document. Because if you want to change a fee that was once listed as $5 to $100, you might have to go through this whole process again just to change the thing. So they usually set the fee schedule in a separate document that can be easily changed.
Do you think we will have our eyes on it beforehand, or?
You can ask for a copy, it's probably in the documentation.
Okay.
And it's probably similar fees throughout, for every type of project. You bring something to the zoning administrator, it's X amount of money. You bring something to the building, it depends on the type of building, you know, it'll be X number of dollars.
Thank you. That's great.
any committee, anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna, Jay, you wanna climb it?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Once again, you have failed to give the public The same materials that you folks are referencing, looks like a SPA document, and perhaps a former SPA document. So if the board, any members of the board have some materials that have not been provided to the public, it looks like Director Wu and Director Mendel do have some extra documents. Can I please have one of those too, to reference?
This is the SPA. I mean,
Right, and
all
you were
property
reading
owners
from
have
it.
it. Well, I keep it in my file.
I
That's how
doubt,
the
I
function is
seriously
needed.
doubt that all property owners have it. I would like to have one now, if you're
Maybe
confused.
let's leave it as a Q&A, please.
Yeah,
Or
Well,
not a Q&A.
this is comment period.
Comments.
What do you comment?
My comment is it's a Brown Act violation if you don't provide the public audience with the same packet materials that the board members are referencing during your meetings. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you for your comment.
okay, Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes,
forward
yes, you may
that
have,
I
yes.
have provided in the packets for the public
Yes.
everything we're using to, you know,
Okay.
what our meeting packet is available to the public. Any reference material that I keep, I have the CC&Rs, I have the bylaws, I have the SPA in my folder, and that's why I'm the secretary and I help the board
Yes.
to reference things.
And I also know
I'm
all
very
new
conscientious
owners in
about
Locke
that.
who buy a building are given everything. They're given
They
the
are.
SPA, and all the documentation. Every new owner is mailed that when they come into town. So our public is notified. Thank you. John? Oh,
Can I have one last comment?
Yes.
Since DECMAC is looking for something, we haven't approved anything, is there anything we can give them so we're not leaving them in the dark?
That's
just a
true.
thought.
Give them our opinion.
We could give them a sheet of, here's comments, here's question
You know what?
marks. I don't like to leave them in the
Gil
dark.
actually asked me to do that because he wanted something in writing from some group somewhere that said something, so that he wouldn't be responsible for making decisions without us.
Well, I think certainly our attendance, somewhat, you know,
Yeah.
whoever can attend from the board will
Okay.
be able to tell Gil directly.
And we could write something up after that. I don't think we're prepared to do that by tomorrow.
Could we have
You
someone?
might be able to.
No, I said I don't think we're prepared
Oh.
to write anything up, but.
No, but I
we
mean
can-
an
we can
informal.
Oh,
An
absolutely.
informal checklist?
Yeah, so you could say, here's what our questions were, here's what we thought, we haven't decided on anything. We have more questions than answers at this point, and someone could present it to the board there.
As I said, I don't think it's going to be the final decision tomorrow night.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going
but
to.
it'd be nice
Yeah.
just to,
Right, exactly, I agree.
How about if we verbally report to them and follow it up with a written?
With a written.
I think that's,
Unless you, who's gonna be typing up tomorrow? I don't.
did you want to go to it, Jay?
Well, it's gonna be a little bit tough. I haven't informed anybody at home. You're gonna go, I'm gonna try to go.
I'm gonna try and go.
And more than just try, I'm committed to going
Okay.
unless something, unless there's a disaster
Oh, wonderful.
at the home front. Okay,
So we'll take no action on this. It was just discussion.
We reviewed it.
yeah,
Okay.
I think that's great though.
So moving on to review action, general common ground maintenance report and alleyway easements and private property health and safety issues. Yes, we have.
I don't have anything new. I simply, left that on under old business because that's always ongoing. I do recall that
Former chair.
former chairman was going to help me draft new notices to people as reminders to point out problems, but, between holidays and absences, that hasn't happened. So,
What was the result of the last letter that was written to ask people to, or remind people that you can't have stuff piled up on the common boardwalk areas? You told me that
that's been improving.
there's been an
Yeah.
improvement. Good.
Yeah, people have been responsive and, it's just, it's
Yeah, it's
a
constant.
chronic thing,
Mhm.
so it's,
Those are the
we
things,
just have to keep going.
it's called running a village.
Also, if you recall, Russell, we had approved last year to hire Delta Tree to cut down
Oh, yes.
dead trees, common area lot, and that wasn't accomplished in 2015, but was accomplished in January. So, just before extremely windy
We took down 2 big old dead walnut trees, and we took down limbs over Mike and Ronnie's house, a big sycamore limb.
Oh, that's
That was
Yes.
threatening, so that's.
Delta Tree was kind enough to actually add that at no extra cost, probably partly because the volunteers offered to take away
We took away
a
all
lot
the
of the
wood.
material rather
Ah.
than them having to dispose of, that saves
Sure.
the L.M.A. money, so.
I think that's awesome. It's showing that we can be effective. Great.
Cool. A woman named Kim, who's a resident in town, who walks a little weenie dog, was really upset because one person, well, Ning, allows his dogs to get out. He's got 4 really frightening dogs. They ripped up, I think, 2 dogs and a cat so far. They pack. And they attack people. I never saw them attack people, but she was saying that they attack people.
Oh,
It's happened to me.
I don't know, we call the county, we call animal control, we tell them, we ask them, I don't know. He's on a first name basis, I think, with the dog control.
yeah.
I said I'd bring it up. I asked her to be here, but she didn't come.
Well, I can speak a little of it. It'd be nice to, at least I talk to Ning because I'm friends with him and I like the guy.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to him, I often go on walks with my girlfriend and her 2 kids, and they got a little ahead of me and went down a hill. His group, he only had 2 of the dogs on a leash, ran at them to attack. Both kids burst into tears, and I had to run down the hill and, basically get a branch and get them back.
Oh,
So it was
scary.
that's close.
Yeah, so you could maul a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I have kids that will burst into tears at the first sign of his dogs.
Oh, God.
So I've had to ask him a couple of times now to get him on a leash. So it would be nice to have, and I know there's been other people out there saying the same thing.
Well, any suggestions or beyond what we've been doing? We've sent letters, we call animal control, there are
Well,
laws against it.
individuals making individual complaints are powerful. So if it is dogs off the leash, chasing after children, maybe you need to
Make
tell them
those-
if they're loose again, you'll have to make them complain. I don't know what else to do.
I think it's very effective for each of us. I mean, I've made the complaints to Ning before.
I think
And it worked for a little while. He tries to keep his dog. But I think the more, essentially it's a community. We as a community need to say this is a community affair and you need to take care of your dogs. And there are consequences. We will continue calling, but it's much better for him to keep his dogs on the leash, all of them.
Right.
Citizen arrest.
Right, so public comment. Is there any public comment?
Yes.
Jay?
I'd just like to reiterate that, once again, you're violating the privacy rights of the people in this town by talking bad stuff about them at your public meeting.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to new business. Review action item, approval of the 2016 proposed budget and annual report. Do we have a proposed
Yeah, since
budget?
I'm the treasurer, just take a moment. The first is the letter that will go out to all of the property owners. And it's, we just need to have your approval to be able to, because then it's an approved budget. The budget is pretty well straightforward, as you can see of what we take in, our expenses. I would like to, make a note of the legal services and contingency. Again, this is hopefully If I understand things right, tomorrow there is going to be the judge in one of our cases concerning Miss Esch, which will be.
Violation of property, of privacy rights. Please don't mention my name at your board meetings without putting me in the agenda.
So
You
this
have
is
no
my
business
report.
to do that.
So that the legal questions that have been that's produced these legal fees are hopefully going to be resolved tomorrow with the judge's preliminary motion for summary judgment. And we'll be hearing that sometime in the afternoon. If that happens, then we can pursue our case for recouping all of these legal fees. So with that said, hopefully by next year, if we can recuperate these legal fees, which I think there's a very good chance that we will, then we can look at, as I've said, reducing the amount of our assessments every single month. So I just wanted to point that out in the legal services and the contingencies to kind of bear that in mind. So that next year, considering that our expenses aren't that great, and to the amount of money that we're taking in, we could either build up money for bigger projects that's in the town, or to have, say, like the tree cutting, which is a big expense, set aside. So I think we'll have much more opportunities to do other things with our budgets once we get ahead of the legal costs and recoup them from hopefully a very positive reading with the Esch.
Violation of my privacy. Do not mention my name again, please.
Ms. Esch, please don't speak out of turn.
So, and then, let's see, we have, so the other, as I've said with already if you look at again, this is in the budget, but this budget and all this documentation goes out to every single property owner.
Okay.
Because it's part of my budget. And every single property owner needs to see where the money goes to. So this is, in a sense, a very public document.
Yes.
That because it breaks down by each of the property owners from every single property owner by name and the amount that they have either paid or the amount that they owe. So Miss Esch is listed as how much she owes, just as John Green is mentioned as how much he owes, just as Anthony Lee is mentioned by how much he owes.
Violation of
Just
three
as-
property owners' rights.
Just as Ronnie Maiden is mentioned as what she knows,
4.
as well as the estate of.
Get ready for a class action
Please,
lawsuit.
quit interrupting.
So, what we have is a public document that goes out, as well as this public
Sure.
document that's here at this meeting. So,
Yeah, it's required.
it's required. That's right.
Yes.
So, does anybody have any questions about the proposed budget?
If that's a public document, is it mailed to the press?
I guess if the press requested it.
There's
we
no
can mail it.
requirement to have a press
There's no
release.
requirement. No,
Hey, it's not.
It's available to the press upon request.
Okay, I'll make a
I'd like to
request
move
Yeah.
right now,
Wait,
and I'll give you the address
You're
after
out
the
of
meeting.
turn, too.
Well, I'd like-
You're out of
Comment
turn.
Here, yeah.
I'd like to move
I like
to
the second.
approve the treasurer's proposed budget and annual report.
Do I have a motion to accept the proposed budget? Do I
And
hear
I
a
like,
second?
I
Public
like the
comment.
second.
Wait a second, wait a second. Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Wonderful. Is there any further discussion among us? Great. I will now open, and now that we have a motion on the floor for public comment. Want to comment? 3 minutes.
Yep.
This proposed budget, is this for this year? For 2016, Mr. Motlow? Or is it for 2017? Not sure. Today's date is what? Early February? This proposed budget was supposed to be sent to us between November 1st and November 15th of last year. required by the CC&Rs. You're a few months late, and we're supposed to get a chance to review it before you approve it. I'm speaking for the property owners in this town, 38 property owners, who are intimidated by your crony group of self-elected board members and afraid to come to the meetings.
Are you finished? Are you finished?
Well,
She's finished.
Are there any more?
Anyone else?
Minutes left?
Any other, would you like to make a public comment about? the
Just, I
request?
can give James my address to send it to.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
if you can give it to our secretary.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Wonderful.
Oh, by the way, just wanted to remind the board that the proposed budget was mailed in November to the property owners with a cover letter from our treasurer alerting them that that was the proposed budget, subject to ratification by the board of directors.
I did not receive one.
Wonderful.
I'd like to have a copy of that and the cover letter.
Interrupting.
Don't interrupt.
So it's still a motion, or are we?
So it's still a motion on the floor to accept the budget. So, all those in favor of accepting the proposed budget for the year 2016?
You can't do it until next
signify
month.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Wonderful, motion carried. Okay, moving on to communications. Are there any communications?
The only communication was already in the treasurer's packet, unless someone else had communications that I haven't learned about. The communication
Increase in
from
the accounting fee.
the increase in
Oh.
the Sony's account.
Oh, yes, right, from 250 to 275,
Right, $25.
so $300 a year. Okay.
No, you don't mean that.
275.
You said $300
$25
a year.
more a year, yeah. times
Oh,
12.
$300 more a year.
Yeah.
Oh, now I
Right.
understand. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Any other?
Oh, wait a minute, one
Yes.
more communication. Just to, and maybe the treasurer probably needed a reminder that we did receive communication from the insurance company for our policy for the board, and nothing was changed, and it was the same amount, and so we authorized it, or the treasurer authorized it to be renewed
Wonderful.
as, on time.
Good.
That was actually an email, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, are there any public comments?
Yes. Who is our insurance carrier?
Public comments are comments.
This is a
They're not
question.
questions.
This is a question from a property owner.
Well, ask them in a letter to.
No, no, you guys don't answer your letters.
Public
I
comments.
send you letters, I send you PRA requests,
We answer
you
them.
ignore them. You ignore them.
Go
I've
ahead,
sent you
what
4
comment? Make a
PRA
comment.
requests in the last
Make
4
some
years.
comments.
Okay? I would like to know, and so would other property owners in the
Don't
town.
speak for them. Speak for yourself. Thank you.
I would like to know who the insurance company is that carries the indemnification for your board, and how much money we are paying for that in each of our assessments. And I've been apprised by someone in charge of the financials that, Mr. Ooms, you don't pay, you get a discounted rate for your cabinet shop in the back that has no business license.
Well, that's unsubstantiated, but who knows? Okay, any other comments? Do you have a comment? Wonderful. Any announcements?
Yeah, a brief announcement. I participated in an interesting teleconference today with people very high up in the National Park Service. In fact, a special assistant to the director of the National Park Service, because they're beginning to embark on a project to write a historical context for Asian and Pacific Islander peoples in California, and maybe even the nation. But it's just a you know, interesting that the National Park Service has gone through the last few years. They've focused on different ethnic groups in America and written historical, and that's a whole nother discussion, maybe what a historical context is, but these broad historical contexts outlining the history of various groups. And right now, the next group is AAPI, I believe, so might be of interest. And I put in a pitch in the middle of the teleconference that the scholars that are doing the research should focus on the Delta, and I also called out Stockton and San Joaquin County because I think that those areas are ignored a lot. So that was my announcement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. Any other announcements? Okay,
I have an
moving on
announcement.
To
I have an
adjourn.
announcement.
I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. This meeting is adjourned at
8:06.
Yes.
I'd like,
Cool.